Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus and welcome to another analysis video. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. So recently I made a video about copyright and mentioned that some videos over the years have been blocked on my channel. So I thought that I would re-edit them and just blur out the image, which is the reason that they got a copyright block, so that we can at least look at the analysis videos and we can still hear everything that's going on. So this is one of those videos and it was from a few years ago, so you'll have to accept the lower pixel density, the quality of the image, and also me looking a lot younger. So I'll see you guys at the next video. Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus and welcome to another analysis video. If you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. On the agenda tonight, we're going back to 1987. We're going to be taking a look at George Harrison and Eric Clapton, Jeff Lynne, Phil Collins, Ringo Starr, Mark King, Elton John, Jules Holland. There's probably a couple of other people that I haven't mentioned, but it is a stage full of talent. Just another thing to mention is that I've already recorded this video and for some reason unknown to me, the microphone started to develop a crackle, and I always do a sound check before I start recording a video, and the sound check, sure enough, was perfectly clean, no crackle, and then during the course of recording the video, one developed. I have no idea why, so apologies for the crackling on the audio, but let's get into this video and see how they get on. I'm just going to jump in here As always, the link to this video is going to be in the description below, so you guys can watch it the whole way through without me interrupting it. In terms of breaking it down, there are so many different places that you could go in terms of the individual talent, the instrumental talent on show. Elton John on piano as well. I'm not sure whether I mentioned him in the intro, but we've also got Ray Cooper with his tambourine technique in the background. So it's all kicking off in this video. So having this amount of talent all together on the same stage is such a rare thing to see, and also it does bring up the question about back in 1987, which was this performance. And by the way, this was at the Prince's Trust, and something that does annoy me to a certain extent about this video is the fact that you can have this much talent on stage and you cannot get someone to put a mic stand on stage for George Harrison that is solid and just works, because you'll notice George having to readjust that mic because it's spinning gradually, just bit by bit, the whole time throughout the performance. You would think that you could just get a mic stand, just buy a new one and set it up, but having played a lot myself and played many gigs, you will find that venues, when they supply a mic stand, it doesn't matter how much talent's on stage, how big the gig is that you're playing, mic stands are always second, third, fourth, or fifth hand, and there will be problems and they won't maintain their position. And sometimes boom stands will ever so slightly droop throughout the performance, and you have to keep on adjusting it. So, top tip for any bands out there, you probably already do this, but just buy your own mic stand and take it to every gig, just to do away with the stress of a wandering microphone. But it is a bit annoying to see someone of George Harrison's ability and talent having to deal with a second-hand mic stand. But getting into the analysis, first of all, just an overview of this performance and, if anything, the performers around at the time, because we've got such talent here. And you would think that nowadays, what would be the modern equivalent of this lineup that they had in 1987? If you had all the top acts from 2019, 2020, and put 6 or 7 or 8 of them on stage, what would it sound like and what would it look like? And I can't help but think it would be nowhere near the level that this can reach back in 1987, because it was a given that you had to play an instrument to a level of technical ability where you could keep an audience's attention just by yourself. And we'll see that with George Harrison later on when he's playing a lead solo with Eric Clapton. He has the ability to play a lead guitar solo. And when we're looking around the rest of the artists who are on stage here, Elton John, songwriting, technical ability at the instrument, one of the standalone voices in terms of just recognizing when it's Elton John singing. Same thing with George Harrison. Same thing with Eric Clapton. Eric Clapton playing lead guitar, rhythm guitar, great songwriter. We've got Phil Collins behind the drum kit. Another unmistakable voice, and somebody of such a technical ability on their instrument, just a standalone drummer. And I could go on, we've got Jules Holland on piano, just playing the single-keyed intro here. But obviously Ringo Starr as well, standalone drummer, top technical ability. So I don't want to just keep saying the same thing over and over again, because you get the picture. Jeff Lynne as well. Talk about top talent. Jeff Lynne, for example, songwriting, the whole package in one. Producer, somebody that can do everything. And then Mark King, Level 42, certainly a band from my childhood. Watching Mark King perform live, if you don't know who Mark is, check him out. In terms of his technical ability on the bass and being able to sing at the same time, all of these guys on stage are so good, not only as instrumentalists, but vocally. I can't think of 7 or 8 guys that you could put together on a stage from the current generation or the current era of popular music who would be able to do this. First of all, just getting behind the writing of the song and the way that George has put this together lyrically to make a serious point about the love that everybody has within them, potentially to give out, but everybody's hiding it and not showing it. And it's a song that's very much pointed in that direction, but also when it was being recorded and the fact that Eric Clapton came in to do the lead guitar solo at the same time as the Beatles were in the studio, and Eric wasn't sure about coming along to the studio to do it because of how the other members of the Beatles might feel about him coming and playing on something that would be on their album, the White Album that this was on. Originally, again, one of those songs that started out very much along the folk lines in terms of how George wrote it. And then when they got it in the studio and they produced it, obviously for the full band sound, they rocked it up a little bit. But in later years, there have been different versions of it released. And it just goes to show what a great composition it is in the first place, because it works with that full band sound, but also just with that singer-songwriter folk sound, it works really stripped back. And that is always the markings of a great song, where you can play it in any particular arrangement, whether you have a full band or totally stripped back, but the quality of the composition always engages an audience. This really does highlight as well the amount of talent in the Beatles as a band, because most people will think of Lennon and McCartney as that songwriting powerhouse with the Beatles, but then you have George Harrison, who can throw together a track like this, and Rolling Stone ranked this as 136th out of the 500 greatest songs of all time. So in terms of going to your third writer in the band, it's not a bad effort. And also, just to mention the time that this was written, because the Beatles were going through a period where George was really getting into his meditation and philosophy, and the rest of the band, I'm sure, weren't as into it at the time, and this was just one of those songs that he wanted to record and release. I'm not sure that the band were entirely into it. It was around the same time that Yoko Ono started getting a little bit too involved, maybe for some people's liking, and Ringo did actually leave the band, but then came back just before the recording of this because of the disharmony within the group. As I said, it's impossible to analyze this in terms of looking at each individual member because it will take years, but taking a step back and looking at the overall composition, because it's one of those songs that once you finish listening to it, you're not really happy and you're not really sad, but you're in a place where you are thinking about that lyrical content and the meaning of the song. You very much reflect on what has been sung, and that is all to do with the mixing of the major and the minor keys. Having our verse that is minor based, then having this positive jump into the chorus, which is major based. And I've got a guitar next to me, so I'm going to take you through exactly what's going on, because me trying to explain it will take years as well. So I'm getting the acoustic out. I'm going to try and maybe play this in a vertical way because I don't have much space. So in our verse, we're starting in A minor. So we've got this. So that's our basic chord progression in terms of descending the whole time. And when we get to the second time through, we then get to our C and our E, and here is the killer. This is where the mood changes totally. From the C down to the E, we're now ending on an A major. And that is the end of the verse, beginning of the chorus. So this first chord of the chorus, which is an A major, is now happy. It's gone from being an A minor we now get that major key, which takes it to a different place. And just breaking down the melody of the verse and the chorus, I don't want to bore you guys playing this on the guitar and playing the melody, but the verse, in terms of having our minor scale, all of the notes, all of the melody of the verse, we're going. Oh. We even have a little bit of blues scale in there. So it means that it's being taken to that minor place. So then when we transition into the chorus, we're now going to be in the major scale, that do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do scale. And that's what it's going to sound like. And the melody to the chorus is just those notes, but arranged in a different order. So we have... Now, if I play the scale through, the other thing that makes a massive difference in this song, and I'm going to put the guitar away now because we don't really need it anymore, is the guitar solo, because the solo is another voice that you're listening to after having heard George with his lead vocal. Having Eric Clapton's lead guitar voice in there is going to be a focal point, and it's going to be something that sticks in your mind because it was a different voice to the one that you were used to before that guitar came in. So because it's over the minor chord progression, it means that Eric is playing in the minor key. So it means the whole guitar solo is going to have an edge to it, a sadder edge than if he was playing over the major chord progression of the chorus. And if he was playing in a major sound, it would take it to a happy place, which is the last place George wanted it in terms of the overall message of the composition. That's what gives you the overall feeling. By the end of the song, we've spent most of our time in the minor key because we had another voice in there that we hadn't heard before, and that was communicating to us. It was Eric through his guitar, but the communication was in the minor key, so it was telling a sad message whilst that was continuing. But let's get back into the video and we'll watch it until the end.
I see the love that's sleeping, while my guitar gently weeps. Look at you all, still my guitar gently weeps. Thank you. Thank you very much. Eric Clapton.
And there we have it. So about that lead guitar solo where George is playing with Eric and they're trading lines. This is something else about George Harrison, is the way that he could play guitar. And I know that he used to put down his own guitar playing, but throughout that whole solo section, was there any point at which you thought that Eric Clapton was playing opposite an amateur, or you could tell the difference between the two guitars because one was at such a different level in terms of playing ability than the other. And certainly myself, as a guitar teacher for 15 years and having played for 24 years or something stupid, probably more than that now. But there is such a great correlation between the two lead guitar lines, and that is all down to George Harrison's ability on the fretboard. And he was a great slide player, and this is something that gets overlooked in terms of just his overall ability at playing lead guitar, because you don't get to that standard without putting in a lot of practice and having a great appreciation of melody and how to put together a solo. But this is a great example because George's tone as well is super clean. So it means that the technique has got to be right up there in order just to hold your own, trading lines with a guy like Eric Clapton, when Eric has got a little bit of overdrive on his sound because it is the designated lead guitar. And it's a great video to have a look at in terms of getting down George's ability as a lead guitarist. He played slide as well, like I mentioned, and multi-instrumentalist, sitar, you name it. George had a go at it, ukulele. There is so much that George could do instrumentally, as well as being that vocalist and that songwriter. The other point to make about this song in general, when I'm referring to the verse and the chorus, again, you can take that with a pinch of salt, because you could argue that the verse after the intro is the chorus, because we get the tagline of the song, "While My Guitar Gently Weeps," and the outro, like I said, it can be extended for guitar solos if you want to put that in there. That can be seen as the chorus until the end. So it's something that the Beatles did all the time in terms of putting parts in a song that would be a verse, but it sounded more like a chorus, and then it might be followed by a verse, and then they might have a middle eight in there, and there might be a solo after the middle eight, but then back into a chorus, and you weren't really sure what was what. But one of those performances that you could analyze for years, and taking a step back, looking at the composition overall, gives you an appreciation of why you might feel a particular way after listening to the song, because of that mix of major keys and minor keys. But thank you so much for suggesting this video for me to take a look at, and keep those suggestions coming in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you guys at the next one. Rock!